Can citizens of Albania, population 2.4 million, push back against their own government and the pull of the U.S. president's family, whom they accuse of capitalizing on connections to privatize protected coastline on the Adriatic Sea? Introducing what activists have dubbed the Flamingo Revolution of 2026, an unprecedented leaderless movement in Albania against Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner's bid to build a $4 billion luxury resort project on land purchased by Qatari contacts of the Kushners. From no-bid contracts and allegations of fraudulent sales of land by organized crime-related figures posing as the landowners, to the diplomatic row sparked over the manhandling of ethnic Greeks in that area. We'll ask about the case and the Prime Minister's promise that the project will propel Albania into the, quote, Champions League of tourist destinations. In this David versus Goliath-style tale, there's the blurring of lines between the personal business interests of the Trump family and the power of a sitting U.S. president. The current one has sent his son-in-law to mediate peace with Iran and Russia, pardoned his convicted real estate mogul father, and appointed him ambassador to France. Why does the outrage seem stronger in Albania than in the United States or here in France, where the president just this week quietly welcomed four-term Albanian leader Edi Rama? Today in the France 24 debate, we're talking about Albania's Flamingo Revolution. And with us from the capital, Tirana, journalist Lindita Cella, director of investigative news site Shteg.org. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
He's followed the money his entire career. Human rights attorney William Bourdon, founder of the anti-corruption advocacy group Sherpa. Thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Stephen Hansen, professor of political science at William and Mary University, co-author of The Assault on the State, How the Global Attack on Modern Government Endangers Our Future. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We reached out, by the way, to the Albanian embassy in Paris, to the Kushners investment firm Affinity Partners, and to the chair of the Sazan Real Estate Development Company, all to no avail. You can always avail yourself to the France 24 debate wherever podcasts are streamed. Yeah, when the guardhouse at the Kakome Beach comes tumbling down, the locals furious over the privatization of public coastal areas in one of the Adriatic coast's most pristine settings. These images from Tuesday, as you see the angry locals tearing down the guardhouse there. It mirrors the nightly rallies in the capital that have been calling for the resignation of the Prime Minister this entire month. Caitlin Brown has more.
It was pitched as a $1.6 billion luxury resort to put Albania's coastline on the map. Instead, Jared Kushner's development deal has sparked intense protest in Albania. Its name, the Flamingo Revolution. Led by Kushner's investment firm Affinity Partners, the project would sit on an undeveloped stretch of coastline near the Viosanata protected landscape, a vital wetland home to seals, sea turtles and flamingos. But as bulldozers rolled in, local panic quickly shifted. What began as an environmental fight turned into fierce anti-government rallies over transparency, land rights and foreign influence.
Politicians should be afraid of the masses and the people they are being voted for. They are here to serve us. They are not there to make whatever they want and to sell our land and our greatest assets to foreign interests.
Despite the unrest, longtime Prime Minister Edi Rama remains firm, framing the project as a major investment opportunity, dismissing thousands in the streets and even publicly blaming the turmoil on Iranian hybrid cyber attacks. But public anger is only growing, shifting from environmental concerns straight to a demand for political change.
Out of this protest, I expect the Prime Minister to resign and to open the floor to a major shift in Albania's society and Albania's politics.
And the pressure is refusing to dissipate, as the state's anti-corruption unit is now opening an inquiry into the Kushner deal. After 13 years of Rama's rule, these cardboard flamingos have become a unified demand for total systemic overhaul.
Lindita Cella, of course, it's been a month now that this has been going on nightly. first off, before we go into the specifics of the case, are you surprised by this leaderless movement?
Yes, definitely. Surprised, and let's say I don't even hope. Because when we are, I have been every night in the protest to report and to see what is going on. But what I got, it is a full energy. The reason that I'm saying that or feeling this clean energy, and I think Albanians, they are going to, the numbers on the protest, they are going to be much more higher, is because during, let's say, in the last 5 years at least, reporting or making the story against corruptions, against crime. I had this kind of feeling as a journalist that anything it was impact. When you, for example, we report how the former prime minister is charged under the corruption cases. So when you see or when you make the reports that the biggest investment in Albania and in construction sectors, behind of them are the criminal groups, it's nothing happens in Albania. So right now, personally, what I get it is that Albanian people is not staying more quiet. It seems everything that happens during the past years has impacted them, and this is the main reason they are protesting.
So for a long time, nothing happens until it does. Lindita, we're gonna try to reconnect with you because we're having audio issues there, a bit of feedback problems, but we can have that quickly sorted out. Apologies for that. We'll get that sorted right away. William Bourdon, this scheme, it begins in not that long ago, a couple of years ago, and the Kushners, they are already at the outset have the backing, again, of this Qatari money for the purchase of this land.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm very honored to be there. I represent a collective of NGO acting all over the world to protect environment. And it's a very, very serious and unique topic.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Hold on one second, because we seem to have an audio issue in the studio here. They're trying to reconnect Lindita Cella, but let's try. So. Can we please, maybe we could sort that out with the sound issue.
Yeah.
Go ahead, William.
Thank you.
Apologies.
And among these NGO, some of them are mobilized to try to halt a very murky investment project, privatization of an atoll depending of Assumption Island in Seychelles. And what is at stake there is the fact that in Albania and in Seychelles, we have the same key individual, the same operators, Al-Kayat brothers, Qatari, billionaires, very well known, to have absolutely complete despise for law, protection of areas. And what is really spectacular is the fact that it is the same modus operandi.
What is that modus operandi?
Modus operandi, that is to say, a kind of division of work between Kushner, who appear as the expression of soft power of Trump administration, and is in front, and behind him, we have the Qatari operators who negotiate the contracts, who make the deal in some condition which could be considered as very gloomy, with suspicion of corruption in Albania, and in a very incestuous relationship between high civil servants, Trump administration, and Qataris.
High civil servants in the Seychelles and in Albania.
In Albania, and with the same target, the same obsession, to develop luxurious project resorts in some places which are considered by UNESCO as our collective heritage, protected by of course, national law, international convention, and luxurious places to offer to billionaires, to rich people, the possibility to laugh, to drink, to dive among endemic spaces, some of them endangered, without a single respect for law, for international treaties. And my duty or determination with this collective of NGO, I cannot disclose the name for obvious security reasons, is to take all the initiative possible to try to put an end to this project in Albania, in Seychelles. Some Albanian NGO approached me, and we have now approached a very clear scheme of this more or less a pacified relationship between this group of Qataris, Al-Kayat, billionaires, Kushner, son-in-law on Trump, with the support of the administration Trump, for the idea, of course, to facilitate the private interest of Kushner and Trump family.
And before we ask you about how you're working with those whistleblowers, let's first talk about what they're up against. The connections back with, I think, with Lindita Cella. Lindita, in a completely separate probe by the Albanian Special Prosecutor's Office against corruption and organized crime, there were arrest warrants issued this month for 20 people in an alleged cocaine trafficking and money laundering ring, including one that could be the same one that sold land intended for this very same tourist complex. So those that are trying to stop this luxury resort are up against possibly drug cartels and.
What can I say? Yes, it's true. The prosecutors, they started the investigation, and the court decision, it was warrant arrest for 20 people. In the middle of them, it's even the person called Artur Shehu. Finally, thanks to this investigation, we can say, we as a journalist, we can say that how this guy has been involved in the drug dealer cases, and we are speaking for huge, at least the documents shows, for the huge trafficking cocaine from America, Latina to Europe.
And if I'm clear, Lindita, it might be possible that some of this land is being sold even though it doesn't belong to those people.
Yeah, exactly, you are right on it. Okay, depends how, to be officially, depends how you are seeing the cases. If you are referring to documents, yes, the lands right now, more than 400, I can guarantee the documents that I have seen, then more than 400 hectares land, exactly in the places where the project will be take place, at least what the government has given the building, not the building, but development permit for the one company. It is exactly the land owned by Artur Shehu. Before this investigation, this is crucial to say, we cannot say anything about these guys, but just the dodgy businessman or just a controversial businessman who left Albania after 90s and he never appeared. But through some scheme, I can say, fraud, not me, but even the court files shows that he has been able during this, let's say, for the decade, to own all the land in the Vernets or in whole the lagoon, near to lagoon. Actually, are, let's say, more than 25 people, 215 people, which they claim their lands belong to them. For this year or during these 20 years, any one of the locals haven't been able to get the certificate of the land. And the documents show that the Shehu family, they got those certificate of ownership in very, very quick way. And
right.
now
So the land,
he has
land that's twice been that's twice been sold over, and the unspoiled coast certainly, as we were hearing from William Bourdon, it's a pattern. Idyllic places. The U.S. president's daughter who went to Sazan Island, which was a military exclusion zone dating back to the days when it hosted a Soviet submarine base after World War II. It's now a national marine park. Ivanka Trump telling podcaster David Senra of her discovery of the island while on a sailing trip.
Yeah,
We
it's
stopped for a
exactly like
swim.
that.
Effectively, that's how we found it. We swam to the islands. We went on a hike, barefoot all the way up to the top, and we were just captivated. And it stayed with us ever since. And over the course of many years, we developed the opportunity to help realize its potential and transform it, but with a lot of restraint and care, because the land is so beautiful that really the architecture has to be fully integrated into it, almost rise from it. You know, it's not even a business for me, despite the scale of it. We not only the island, but we have 5 miles of beachfront directly across from the island, this beautiful peninsula with a lagoon on one side, the ocean on the other, beautiful white sand beaches. For me, it feels more like a challenge than anything else. The culmination of all of my experience in real estate, all of my travel, a lot of reflection on how I want to live, how I think people increasingly are wanting to live, and trying to really build something that's a tangible manifestation of that.
Stephen Hansen, this podcast interview taking place after the protests had started. What's going through your mind when you listen to Ivanka's Trump's idea of how people want to live, as she puts it?
Yeah, it is really stunning to see this level of misunderstanding of the situation. But it really reflects the kind of regime we now have in the United States under Trump. This, in short, is a family business, running the state. My co-author, Jeff Kopstein, and I, in our book, call this the patrimonial wave. More and more countries are just getting into the grip of strongman leaders who see themselves as fathers of their countries and therefore own the state and have the right to divvy up its assets to anyone who's loyal, and to family members.
Were you why is this happening now in the United States? It's about to celebrate 250 years.
The irony is that this type of rule has arisen because people think of it as an alternative to neoliberal globalization. It looks to many ordinary people that the old meritocratic rule of law elites are responsible for this kind of winner-take-all global economy that our guests have been describing. They want an alternative that seems to be nationalistic, that seems to defend traditional values. And unfortunately, this model of the father of the nation running the state as a family business seems to people to reflect that kind of reclaiming of the national idea.
Reclaiming of the national idea, William Bourdon, and it's transactional. We've seen it when peace treaties have been signed, like between the DR Congo and Rwanda, where there's a minerals deal that goes with it.
Yeah, what we have seen here when we heard Ivanka, the wife of Jared Kushner, first demonstrates the exceptional cynicism and feeling of total impunity. And feeling of impunity, perhaps because of corruption in Albania, and we have suspicion, incestuous relationship with some high civil servant, but also because he represents the soft power of United States. He is protected by Trump administration. He appears in very high-level negotiation, but simultaneously, the greed explained also his capacity to be in the front line of millions, billions of investments, which an enormous cost in Seychelles, in Albania. It's still time to act. What happened here is extremely serious. And we have to applaud, of course, the Albanian protesters. We have to applaud the action of the Albanian journalists. We have to applaud the action of Selina Shen from the NGO Friends of Aldabra in US. And all this must be considered as an encouragement to be offensive. We have to be offensive with these guys. They have no limit. It's a combination of public and private sectors competence exceptional. It's a combination of investment very harmful for environment, irreversible investment, and damages if we do not find the key legal avenue to put an end to this. And with a background to soft power of US, and soft power of Qatar,
Oh, let's talk about that, William Bourdon, because there's the blurred lines between Jared Kushner, the real estate developer, and Jared Kushner, the Iran mediator. We can show him a picture from Switzerland just a few days ago in the company of the U.S. Vice President and the Qatari Prime Minister. There, he's not in his role as a businessman. He's there in his role as a representative of the United States, trying to broker an end to a war with global consequences.
Double face, double cap, double ambition, link all together with the same strategy to expand.
Has this been normalized? Is this now kind of accepted? We've kind of been dulled by it, right?
This merge
I don't see much outrage
of
over
private
this.
interest and public interest is something quite new at such global pattern. We have to study these new tools, this new mechanism, and it's a main défi for the civil society. We need to be imaginative to defy this challenge. And I want also to add the fact that we have to deal with brutal person. This is a kind of mafia. What was the cry of Albanian people in the street was first Albania, and we want to get rid of the mafia. This is a mafia mechanism which is at the service of a group of citizens, some of them depending of Trump family, Trump administration, some of them depending of Qatar at the highest level possible, with a very, very possible irreversible price, that is to say, the destruction of main protected areas, protected by UNESCO, protected by main international institutions. That is at stake today.
All right, and Stephen Hansen, you heard William Bourdon talk about Albania and the Seychelles. In both those cases, these are pristine, idyllic, paradise destinations, kind of like those privatized islands in the Caribbean by some billionaires. There's this idea about the fact that these are luxury resorts we're talking about, which are central to this conversation.
Well, it's a phenomenon around the world with these kinds of regimes. Public goods do not fare well under patrimonial rule. The state is a family business, and so anything that belongs to the state, whether it's national parks, whether it's pristine areas, whether it's the healthcare system, it's going to be reoriented in the interests of these elites. And unfortunately, we are now looking at a world in which that kind of regime type has spread so far. We have the Gulf monarchies in that mode. We have the United States. Until recently, we had Hungary under Orban like this. We have Netanyahu in Israel. So there's so many regimes that have this kind of orientation. They start seeing the entire world as a field of transactions, deals to be made behind the scenes.
So let me ask you on this. Let me ask you about this, Stephen, because there's this concept that's been floated around by some in Silicon Valley, some of network states. This idea that you can have these sort of private places. Some even, we had a show devoted to Greenland. Some were suggesting that In Greenland, you could have this sort of privatized country where only the happy few could be. Is that too much of a stretch? We're just talking here about luxury resorts. What's the difference between a gated community, if you will, and a network state?
So I'm very skeptical of these kinds of concepts from Silicon Valley. I mean, the reality is that states run our militaries, they run our police. They are still old-fashioned in many respects. And for the vast majority of citizens, they're not going to go to these networks or islands or resorts. So the problem now is that the rhetoric of supporting the state as such is really hard to articulate. On the left, you have anarchists who think the state is, the handmaiden of capitalism. On the right, you have libertarians and Christian conservatives and other conservatives who think the state is the bureaucratic enemy of freedom. So to re-articulate the need for a rule of law state in a place like Albania, for example, is really difficult. But it is encouraging to see these protests. They are protests against a system that is embedded in that set of networks. And both parties in Albania are being criticized for this. So there is hope that civil society can start to change this discourse.
Hope that civil society will change this discourse. Let me ask you, Lindita Cella, are the protests happening now because, why are they happening now? You said at the outset of this program that there had been many scandals before and nobody dared speak up. Now they're speaking up. What's changed?
What changed? I think Albanian people, it's the time when they say it's enough. I just gathered some figures. For example, in just 5 years, we had in total 21 senior officials of socialist parties, like former minister, deputy prime minister, 2 of them, they're under investigations, and some of them, they are in prison, minister, and so on. So what did this change? It changed because previously, even in the same area, Albanian government, example, they just give the permit to build an airport. But right now, the project is not ended up. What Albanian people learned later on, this project that it was promised as the biggest investment foreign one, Turkish and so on, right now happened to be just an Albanian one. So this kind of the corruption, the fact that everybody knows that any time that the government promised to make a big project, and just to tell you for what we are speaking right now, the damage of environment, what the Qatari people they are able to do, and how the cases are very, very similar in Seychelles. I can guarantee that anyone didn't know about it. Anyone didn't speak about it because what the Albanian people has been promised, it was says that biggest investment, biggest millionaire, people they respect all the law or all the environment law, and even Eddie Rama by himself, he shares in his Facebook some videos, which he said that it was built, how they look, in which way this companies build their project, how fancy it is, and how good for Albanian, because all the time he mentioned billions euros or dollars are coming back in Albania. So
let's hear from Albania's Prime Minister. Last week, Edi Rama sat down with France 24's Caroline de Camaret, an interview in French in which he blamed Iran and political opponents in the capital, Tirana, for fomenting dissent to a project that he claims most Albanians support.
The protests are no longer about the resort project. People aren't even talking about the project anymore. The protests are now basically a mix of different groups that oppose the government and want to see it fall. And to be precise about what's happening, we're seeing a lot of foreign interference, either from Iran, whose cyber warfare we've been fighting for 3 years, or from competitors in the region who don't want this development to take place in Albania.
Lindita Cella, is the project popular Are there polls that have been conducted?
No, the polls never have been conducted, but I can say you that people speak about the project and they didn't believe anymore what our prime minister says. The people in Albania, they know very well that how, or thanks to the corruption cases investigated by special prosecutors, how corrupted this government is. So even some polls you mentioned, they can be done. The only one who did it are the government organizations. So anyone doesn't trust it anymore. So people didn't speak in details regarding to the project because anyone doesn't know. Let me explain that the only way that Albanian people learn about the Kushner or Ivanka proposal, it was through the one program shows. They claim they have found Albanian. Mrs. Ivanka, she came to Albania 3 times, if I am not wrong. She had dealt with our prime minister, and later on, the governments or the institutions started to speak regarding to this project. For 3 months, I have sent a request to the Albanian government, Albanian institutions, to provide the information. And what kind of information? For example, what it is the project about? It has been respected all the laws because it is under protected, not by only Albanian law, but even the international law. And the information we didn't have, zero information.
Are you still waiting on that information? So William Bourdon, as you were sort of hinting earlier, it's not all negative, because here you have, as we heard from Lindita, an independent prosecutor's office which is looking into things. You have whistleblowers. You have people who are demanding more transparency. The glass is half empty, but there are people who are pushing back.
I don't want to appear too pessimistic. Of course, we have good news, and what happened in Albania is an example for us. Without independent judicial authority, without whistleblower, without professional civil society, NGO, without courageous protesters and citizens, nothing is possible. We cannot stop this guy. We cannot stop the cynicism and the greed. So it demonstrates that we have the possibility to reduce the asymmetric relationship which exists between you and me, between the citizen of the world, more and more intolerant with this level of greed and obsession of enrichment, using abuse of power. And to reduce this asymmetric relationship, we need courageous people.
So tell me a bit about how...
We need to count on the judge. In France, in various countries, we need to rely on independent and smart, competent judge to put an end to what is at stake. And everybody sees that the same citizen who protest against the risk of destruction of this paradise are the same who want to join European Union. They are the same who require a way of using power, respecting integrity and probity. And at the end, why we are in a very crucial crossroad today, we are in a moment where the main public interests, existential public interests, have never been so threatened. And at a moment where those who have been designated or elected to protect this public interest appears more and more to despise their duty and what is expected by citizens. So it's our collective responsibility now to be imaginative and to join the aspiration of the Albanian people, and Seychelles also, activists, and I want to applaud them, and to send a clear message to these guys. we will succeed to put an end to your greed.
All right, let me ask you about this, Stephen Hansen, because one of the sparks of the protests in Albania was footage of private security guards beating protesters near one of those beaches there in that area that is to be developed. And again, it's this sort of paradox, right? Because on the one hand, Donald Trump is very much out there with the fact that he's got his family running public diplomacy, that he's interested in monetizing some of his foreign policy. On the other hand, there's this transparency when it comes to like the footage again of those guards beating those protesters, which has gone viral and which and the truth has gotten out, if you will.
Yeah, I do agree that the popularity of this kind of leadership is declining globally. I mean, I should mention in the United States, Trump's own popularity rating is now as low as the very low 30s. You know, I saw one poll with him at 30% popularity, which is unheard of and terrible. And that's because this brazen corruption, right? This just overt claiming of every state asset in the name of the president and his family and cronies, it produces bad results. If you promote people only on the basis of loyalty and not on merit or expertise, you get amateur diplomacy, as we see with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. You get results that don't really make any sense, like you see in the war in Iran. And so I do think that people have turned turned against this by and large. And the kinds of protests we're seeing in Albania now truly are inspiring, because we need a spark that's going to unite the public in many countries. You know, on a country by country basis, you can't overturn these systems. You see that in places like Serbia, where similar protests have been, or Georgia, you know, protests of civil society have not changed the regime to date. But if you have multiple countries and the powerful countries all involved in trying to change this, then you can affect change on a more international basis.
Yeah, the Prime Minister of Albania, Edi Rama, a White House favorite. He's cut an offshore migrant holding center deal with Italy. He's joined Donald Trump's Board of Peace. He's often been welcomed here to Paris, like this past Monday, on an official visit, which included a working lunch and a statement where President Macron talked up Albania's path to EU membership. We heard your appeal to citizens of the world earlier. Albania is this country that's not in the European Union, but is neighbor with Greece, across from Italy. Again, what happens in Albania, is it our problem?
Of course, it's our problem. These new countries, young country, we need to mobilize all our efforts to consolidate the ambition of the citizen to join European Union. It's not in itself, of course, a way to sort out all the issues, but joining the European Union will be a shield for Albanian people against the risk tomorrow to fall down again in dictatorship, we have seen this in Hungary, populist regime. But for every initiative which we can take to help to consolidate the courageous mobilization of Albanian people has to be considered as welcome.
So tell me about Sherpa. What are you doing in terms of helping the whistleblowers?
I've created, I'm the president of an NGO named Sherpa, and also a new NGO named Platform of Protection of Whistleblowers in Africa. And we have set a new platform, and we invite citizens in Africa, and especially in Seychelles, to join us anonymously and to share in this platform, and perhaps a bandeau will appear somewhere, to share with us information to help us to demystify all the scheme and to demonstrate the various mechanisms used by all these thugs to sometimes corrupt, to destroy some territories.
We'll put the link on our website, but let me ask you, just to reassure people, Tell us how secure is
We
this
have a very
channel?
good experience. I used to work with very smart and competent humanist experts. And we consider that it is their responsibility to give these new encrypted tools to help the whistleblowers to share information and to protect them. Against the risk of retaliation. So this platform is now ongoing. But what is important to say is not only to repeat that what is at stake here is an obsession of privatization of states, privatization of protected territories. What is at stake now is to obtain that the fear change of camp. And the fear has to be now on Al-Qayyad brothers, has to be on Kushner. They must understand that their conviction that impunity will be irreversible for them will be terminated one day. That's what is at stake.
Lindita Cella, you heard William Bourdon talk about the privatization of state. And of course, we showed that clip earlier that outraged people, those images of people being dragged not by police, but by private security guards. What's the outcome of that? And when it comes to, again, this bid to privatize not just the beach, but security?
Exactly. Anyone didn't know who those guys are. Even today, it was said that it was private company, but I checked on the private company. They didn't have any employer, but from the footage done by the locals, we saw they are on the area has been some of them. Speaking regarding to law, one of the guys has been arrested, and the court has found him guilty because he was arrested, but we didn't know anything else about these guys. Exactly what it is, the fear of Albanian people and what have upset them. You can see very well that anyone from the state police, they didn't move even the fingers. So it's horrible to see that the private guys, they just kidnap you and they have biting these guys, and the police, we pay the tax to protect us. Anyone can protect the people, which at the day, actually, it was just a few of them. So happens like that, and unfortunately, in Albania, I think to recruit them to share the information and to get the feeling that if the people who work in the government, they share the documents and to tell their stories, I think it's a really incredible one, because people in Albania right now have even the afraid to speak and with journalists at least, because they know very well if they say some information, they will be fined from their job. And actually, the most amazing things, what I can say from this protest, it was that maybe the protest will be end tomorrow. I don't know. I'm not such an optimist because you never know in the small country like us. But I can guarantee what the protest has won, and it is really a big winner. They have killed the fear of the people in Albania.
All right, they've killed the fear. We're gonna have to leave it there, unfortunately. But on that note, the fear-changing camp, as well as what William Bourdon was saying. Lindita Cella, I want to thank you. I want to thank you, William Bourdon. Yeah, we'll put up on social media the link to this whistleblower site. I want to thank Stephen Hansen for being with us from Portland, Oregon. Thank you for being with us here in the France 24 debate.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful.